Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Well, it is about 5:30. I just got back from doing a review video. And I wanted to jump on here really quick and just talk to you guys for a second. First of all, I just want to say, I don't really know how to go into this video. I want to say thank you so much for just all of the comments that I have received on my videos where I've been like sharing parts of my life. And I appreciate all of you out there that are saying that you relate to it or you've shared personal stories of your own. And it's really, really cool to me. It's very similar to the feeling that I have with my vlog, where people share in there what's going on with their life and all of that. And so I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, like, it's really, really cool when I go through the comments and people are like, oh, I relate to this too, and whatever. And I think the reason why it feels so warm in my heart is because it's nice to read comments from other people and realize I'm not so all alone in this. Like, I'm not the only one that feels this way. I'm not the only one that, has issues with my body. And I know that, right? Or I'm not the only one that is, like, terrified to go to a party, and things like that. And then I read the comments and people will say things. And I'm like, yes. Like, I so relate to that. And, like, I didn't say that in the video, but that's totally how I feel. And I just want to say I appreciate it so much. But, what's interesting about this is that, I think on a lot of my channels, I'm like, hi, how are you doing? And then when I start talking about really serious stuff, I think maybe the people that watch my videos, unless you watch my vlog consistently, where I cry and I share stories of my life and whatever, I think a lot of people aren't really used to that. And they're kind of like, okay, like, this is a different side of Peter. Like, this is really serious and, like, what's going on here, And the interesting thing about that is that I think that people in my personal life know that I waver between feeling very happy-go-lucky and blessed for my life, to feeling very sad at times. And I think that's normal. I think we use this term, I'm so emotional, like, or I'm really emotional or whatever. We always use that in meaning that, like, and I say it even, like, if I say, like, I'm feeling really emotional today, we typically, use that in the context of I'm feeling sad, or I'm like very, like, crying a lot today and things like that, where really being emotional can be I'm feeling great moments of joy, or I'm feeling great moments of sadness, or I'm really, tuning into my anger, which I think at points of our lives is important to tune in, as long as we're not destructive with it or hurtful with it. I think it's important to tune into our anger and see why we're angry and see why we're resentful. And as a person in, sobriety, that's why we do inventory and we look at resentments and things like that, But what was interesting was on my last 2 videos that I did over here, that several people in my personal off YouTube life, several people called me and was like, are you okay? Like, I'm worried about you. Like, you seem really upset in your last couple videos. And I was like, oh, you watch my videos? First of all, which is funny because most people in my personal life don't watch my videos. They're like, no, we get enough of you that I don't watch you, on YouTube. There's a couple of my friends that do watch my vlogs and like my review videos and stuff like that. But the majority of my friends and family don't watch any of my videos. And so it was interesting that, it was probably like 3 or 4 different people reached out, especially after the first video, it was like 2 people. And then the last video that I did where I was sitting down and I was just talking in the bedroom and stuff, that was where, like, several people reached out to me and they said, you seemed really sad. And so I was thinking about this, and each person called and said, are you okay? Are you okay? And, the reality is that there are some days that the answer to that question is, no, I'm not okay today. There are some days that I wake up and I miss my mom horribly, I mentioned doing a review video today, And one of the cookies that I reviewed was this like orange cookie, and my mom used to make this orange bread, especially at Christmas time, and it reminded me so much of my mom. Like, I haven't had that orange bread. I made it one time myself because I tried to make all the things that my mom made, and it was disastrous. And I made her raw apple muffins, and I made her orange bread, and I made deviled eggs, because that was like my mom's specialty to take to like my family's Thanksgiving or Christmas or something. I can't remember. I think it was Christmas, and I was so excited about it, and none of it turned out. None of it tasted like my mom's, you know? And I think that's the sad thing, is like sometimes, like, you know, the things that we don't realize when we lose people is we lose the sound of their laughter, even if we have it recorded, which I don't. And we lose the food that they served us, because there's always something a little different about how they make it, you know? Or the phone calls. I think the phone calls are the hardest when people are gone. And I've lost quite a few people recently, you know? And I think the phone calls are the hardest. Like, when you just want to pick up the phone and be like, hey, like, oh, I have to tell you something funny. Or the other day I was like watching, people always ask me, like, who do you watch on YouTube, you know? And there's not a lot of people that I watch consistently, like every video that they put out. I used to back in the day, but I don't as much anymore. I mostly just like search stuff and then just like watch all of it. And I was watching Oscar acceptance speeches, mostly by women, because my mom and I, it came up, a Frances McDormand one, because I love when Frances McDormand won for 3 billboards over, I think Missouri, I think that's the name of it, something like that. Anyway, and I love her speech for that Oscar. If you've never seen it, go look it up. And I love Geraldine Page, who won for Trip to Bountiful. And there's so many Oscar, except Julia Roberts, Sandra Bullock, you know, Olivia Colman. All of their speeches were so fantastic, and they inspire me. You know, they inspire me, and I don't even really know why, because when I was a little kid, I always thought maybe I'd win an Oscar, because I'd stand there, you know, in our library, and I would, like, hold a candlestick and say, you know, like... So some days I'm sad, but I feel like it's the bitter and the sweet, and I've accepted that, you know? I've accepted that in life, there are sad days, and there are happy days, and I'm okay with that. Like, I don't believe that I should be living in a world where every day is, you know, happiness and just, you know, perfection and rainbows. That's not a realistic world. And in a weird way, I kind of embrace the sadness that happens to us, because I think that with that, who's calling me? Spam risk. No, you want to talk about anger? No. But I think with that, you know, comes, I think this idea of, like, it's like, you know, the yin and the yang. You can't feel happiness without also, at some point, feeling sadness. I can remember, I'm like in my head thinking, I can remember walking with a friend of ours, a friend of mine, and also a family friend we were like walking through this lobby in this casino. And we were talking about real deep world issues. I don't know why at that moment, you know. And that was where I really got it. And this was probably the year before my mom passed away. And I said to her, and at the time, it's interesting because she was probably 55 and I was like 30, I was 35. And I remember I said to her, you know, I think it's the bitter and the sweet. Like, you have to have both of it in life, you know, to really fully enjoy life. And you're going to have days that you're not okay. And that's okay. You know, there's an acceptance that comes to that. And interestingly enough, that same friend of ours, we went and got a cabin the fall before my mom passed away in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I remember she and I were standing outside and we were looking over the Smoky Mountains. And she said to me, she said, "You seem really unhappy in your life." And I said, "Do I?" And you know, I didn't even really recognize it at that time. Like, I have so many checks and balances in place today to make sure that I am happy. And I am happy today. I feel exuberantly grateful and blessed for the life that I have. And I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And I say that on a regular basis to affirm it, because it is so true. And I you know, my husband and I say it to each other all the time. I'm like, we have such a great little family, and we're so blessed for our little home and the life that we have, you know? And she looked at me and she said, you seem really unhappy. And I was in a job that I loved, but I should have probably left 3 years before. And I was in a relationship that I wasn't happy in anymore. And there were a lot of things I wasn't happy about. And I'll never forget, she looked at me and she took a long drag on her cigarette and she said, don't wait till your husband is 65 years old sitting on the couch every day watching CNN News to do something about it. And I looked at her and I thought, I gotta make some changes in my life. And I don't even know that I fully, even today, really recognize her truth in that statement. And I don't think that's important. All I know is that it lit a fire in me. And I came back and, you know, I started like getting into shape, and I, you know, started eating healthy and working out. And I put in my resignation to the, I mean, I call it a midlife crisis, call it getting your life in check. I don't know. But I realized that day, I'm not going to be here forever. And, you know, and I tried so hard to make that relationship work. We both did. And it didn't work, and it ended. And, but I learned a lot from that. You know, I get asked that question a lot when Alex and I do Q&As, like, what have you learned in past relationships that has made your relationship today? I've learned so much, you know. I've learned that, number one, it's not all about me. It's not all about my needs and wants in a relationship, that I'm in a relationship. I'm looking over like he's here. He's not sitting right here. But, you know, I realized that a relationship is like, I'm only 50% of that partnership, and I have to suit up and show up for him as well, you know. And, but the thing I wanted to talk about mostly in here was, I think we live in a world where we think it's not okay to not be okay. You know, that when people say to us, like, are you okay? It's like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, don't worry about me, you know, whatever. It's like we live in a world where we're afraid to tell people we're not okay. To say, I'm not okay, I'm not doing well at all, right? Because I can sit in a video and I can, like, tell my truth and really, you know, feel like what I'm feeling and all that kind of stuff. And I'm such a venter that, like, once I get done with it and I walk away, like, I know when I get done with this video, like, I will feel 100% better. I'll be like, oh my God, like, whoo, like, you know, I talked about it. That's how I am. Like, when I talk about my best friend and I driving around having fountain pops, you know, part of that is us just venting to each other and working things out and getting things out. And, it's so cathartic, you know? And that helps me be okay. But I don't have to be okay every single day. I don't have to be okay every single day for Alex, my husband. I don't have to be okay for my best friend. I don't have to be okay for anybody. You know, and I think that there's this fear that if I say to somebody, I'm not okay, then they're going to worry about me. And I don't want them to worry about me. So then I just tell them I'm okay, when inside I'm not doing very well. And if I have enough days in a row where I'm not doing very well and I'm not telling anybody, that's going to be a problem. And I have been there before. And that's when my friend looked at me in my face and said, you're not very happy with your life. You know, let me tell you another story. I had not gone to meetings in recovery for 4 years. There was 4 years of my life that I was not active in a 12-step program. This upcoming Friday is my sobriety date. And should I make it, because we do not borrow time in recovery, should I make it to Friday, I will have 27 years. Should I make it to Friday, I'll have 27 years clean and sober. It just seems bizarre to me. It seems like, what did I do to receive this gift, you know? I'm so thankful for it. But when I came back into the rooms, I had no emotional sobriety, which is, who are we when we put the drugs and the alcohol down? And I talk a lot about this because, you know, I know a lot of people, and I see a lot of people that will say, like, oh, I stopped using this substance. And do you work a 12-step program? No. Do you go to counseling? That's not for me. Do you go to church? That's not for me. What did you do to replace the drugs and alcohol? Oh, I just stopped using and I did this and whatever. And I'm like, that's great. But, like, do you realize that as an alcoholic or an addict, like, we use because there's deep issues inside of us, right? Emotional sobriety is, who am I when I put the drug and alcohol down? Have you ever met somebody that stopped using but they're still angry, bitter, and miserable? That's a person that has no emotional sobriety. That's who I was. I had no spiritual foundation in my life, and I talk about this regularly, that I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. But I do respect all people's religious beliefs as long as they don't hurt or condemn somebody else. You know, and what I mean by that is that spirituality to me is of the soul, of the spirit. And I do, I believe in tenets like kindness, compassion, and I do believe in I have a higher power. So I'm going to meetings, right? And I'm going every day at noon and 8 every single day, Monday through Friday. Saturday I'm going to 2, and Sunday I'm going to like 1 or 2, because I was going to a speaker meeting on Sunday night. So I'm going to 14 meetings a week, okay? And my husband and I are having date night on Friday nights. He's going out with his friends on Saturdays. I'm going to a candlelight meeting, and on Sundays we're having brunch, okay? We're trying to repair our relationship, our marriage. We're trying to do all this kind of stuff. And when I came back into the rooms, I came home that night and I said to him, I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix myself. Like, I'm going back and I'm going to go back to meetings again. And I said, and I'm either going to get back into it and save myself, or I'm going to get back into it and save myself, and our marriage will be fixed as a result of that. But I'm going to save myself either way. And it was the first time in a long time that I had really put myself first, you know? And so anyway, I was listening, I was driving, and you can listen to speaker meetings online, and that's when somebody gets up and they just tell their story. They tell what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And they, you know, tell their story of sobriety, and that's called a speaker lead. So I was driving around and I was listening to speaker leads. And at the same time, I was having this woman, I just got to see her like 2 weeks ago. She's the one that says to me every time I see her, if nobody else told you this today, I love you. And she makes me, and I say that in my vlog every night, you know. And do you know when somebody says I love you to you and they like really mean it, and you know it? Like, and she's always like, whenever she sees me, she's like, I love the hell out of you, Peter Monn. She's always, so anyway. But, every day I would see her at the noon meeting, and she would ask me every single day. She'd say, how are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm good, I'm fine, you know? And I was dying inside. I was miserable. We hadn't started marriage counseling yet. I was scared to death that we were headed for divorce. This whole world was new to me because I hadn't been going to meetings for 4 years. I felt complete fear of missing out, like FOMO, you know, like my husband's life. And it just was weird to me. And I just felt in between two worlds. And I was listening. And so, but every day she would ask me, you know, and, so I was listening to this lead when I was driving around, and it was this woman telling the story about how every day this woman would ask her, like, how are you doing? And she would say, you know, like, I'm okay, I'm good, or whatever. And she was dying inside, like, literally, like, ready to end it all. And it hit such a chord with me. The next time I saw my friend, and she said to me, how are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing very well. I'm not doing okay. And I started getting honest. We talk about this idea of honesty, right? And like people are like, oh, he's a liar, she's a liar, and whatever, right? But I think that one of the things that we don't talk about that's so important is being honest with ourselves about our feelings and what's going on inside of us, you know? You might be the most honest person in the entire world when it comes to, you know, did you steal a pen from work, all right? But you know, like, or did you go to the library or whatever? But maybe you're the most dishonest person in the world when it comes to telling people and telling yourself your own truth and how you feel about things. And that's where I was, you know? That I prided myself on this honesty, but I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't be honest with myself that I was dying inside and I wasn't okay. And the next time I saw her, I said, I'm not doing very well, you know? And she stood outside with me and we talked for about an hour and didn't fix everything. But what I realized in that was, I don't have to be okay. I don't have to be okay for anyone. And definitely, I don't have to be okay for myself, you know? But the moment that I started allowing myself to not be okay and realize that I'm going to have just some crap days, that I'm going to wake up and not feel good and not be in the mood and be sad and all that stuff, and I acknowledged that and was honest about it, and reached out to my sponsor and reached out to my friends and said, you know what, like, I need help today. Like, I'm not doing okay. Like, my husband and I, we are so honest about this. You know, it's like, you know, we'll say to each other, like, how are you doing today? And, you know, most days it's like, I'm great. I feel good. I mean, most days I wake out of bed and I'm like, foot on the floor, let's go. Like, I feel great today, right? And I have skills today, and I have a toolbox that allows me, of tools that allows me to work through when I'm having those days that I'm struggling with, to sit down and do a gratitude list or read meditation books, you know, or pray to my higher power, or just call a friend up, or be of service to somebody that has it that's less fortunate than I am. All of those things help put my life into perspective to make me realize you've got it pretty good and maybe you need to stop complaining. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I have to be okay. But what I do need to realize is I'm going to be okay. That this feeling that I'm feeling inside of me right now isn't going to last forever. That this too shall pass, you know? That, you know, it's so funny because for years on my videos, literally years now, I would say that I loved the Maya Angelou quote that Oprah would say, which is, when you're going through the biggest tragedy in your life, look up and say thank you because you're about to learn a very valuable lesson. I don't know where I heard that, but I think it's great anyway. But that's not the quote. Because I went back and I looked for it probably 6 months ago. And the quote is that when you're going through times of trouble, okay, this is from Oprah, but she heard it from Maya Angelou. When you're going through times of trouble in your life, look up to see that the sun will shine again, and this too shall pass. And it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to have days that you miss the hell out of somebody. It's okay to listen to music that makes you sad. It's okay to watch movies that make you cry and remember people. You know, sometimes Alex and I sit here and we just like look at pictures of our dog Pee-Pee, the flying chihuahua that passed away almost 2 years ago. And we just allow ourselves to cry. And that's okay, it's healthy. But don't ever forget that you are going to be okay. Whatever you are going through right now, there is somebody out there, maybe just one person that needs to hear this, because I'm crying today because I'm just feeling so emotional and so thankful. This is actually a video that I've wanted to make for a couple days. But today I'm just like, I'm feeling so grateful, and it's hard because it's like I miss my mom, but at the same time, like I feel so blessed to have had the experience of living with my mom. I feel like it was such a privilege, you know, to have been in my mom's life. I tell people this all the time. What a privilege it was to be in the room with my mother when she passed. What an honor. What a privilege to be part of somebody's life like that. That is not to be ignored. And we're going to have moments where we cry, and we're going to have moments where we miss people. And I'm feeling like that today, you know. I'm also, you know, a believer that it's important for me to get this stuff out. And I had a friend of mine that one day said, if you can't cry about it, then it didn't mean anything to you to begin with. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that statement, because I don't think everybody's a crier. But I know that I pushed stuff down and pushed stuff down and pushed stuff down for so many years because I couldn't allow myself to feel it emotionally. And then when I did, it was like the floodgates just opened, you know. But whoever you are out there, that one person that needs to hear this today, that feels like this isn't gonna, nothing's changing, nothing's gonna get better. There will be a day that things get better. There will be a small glimmer of hope that you see, and you're like, oh, well, that coffee tasted really good. And then a stranger will say, you have a pretty smile. And, you know, you have a day where you just feel good and your back's not hurting, you know, and you got a good night's sleep. And they slowly start adding up. And then over time, you wake up one day and you realize, I'm okay today, and things are better. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.